If you remember cruising along Vice Beach, saving Lance from Cortez's men, and trying to pilot that damn RC helicopter, then you grew up playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. But which one? Because there were 20 different ports released over the past 2 decades, and in this video we're going to compare each of them. That's right, Rockstar's homage to sunsets, palm trees, and excess turns 20. Fans will tell you that yes, there have been objectively better GTA games since, but something about Vice City just makes it a sentimental favorite. Maybe it's the art style, or the soundtrack, or the sandboxed gameplay. Whatever it is, Vice City continues to live on in no small part due to the steady stream of ports and remasters released by Rockstar over these 2 decades. Some great, some not so much. So I'm going to go through every version of Vice City in chronological order. We're going to start at the very beginning, taking a detailed look at the original PlayStation 2 version released on October 29th, 2002. And I'll say it straight away, I think the original is still one of the best looking versions of this game. This is Vice City as it was intended to be experienced, at 420p, slightly blurry, with the trail effects on. And this version is a lot more forgiving of the slightly cartoonish art style than a lot of the later HD remasters. We open with the classic cinematic intro. Tommy is ambushed and scurries back to the safety of Ken's office. And then the game starts, and this sequence here is one of my core memories growing up, getting into the silver Mercedes clone with Flasher Fam just about to blast the chorus of Billie Jean. Unfortunately, I can't play Vice City's iconic soundtrack due to copyright reasons, so instead I had to replace the original recordings of these classics with my own personal renditions on the kazoo. That's better. Now where was I? So yes, the game throws you into a stylized 80s Miami. The sound, the visuals, the aesthetics, it's all oh shit. After 2 decades, Vice City feels like home. You know that white and yellow Oceanic will always be there waiting for you outside the hotel, or the Testarossa by the pier, or the Porsche by the golf club. Sure, some of the elements haven't aged too well, like the AI for example. Where are you going, officer? Is there a crime? Oh no, he's changed his mind. And how about the infinite loop Tommy gets stuck in when he can't find a direct path inside the vehicle? And of course, everybody remembers the collision physics. Plot-wise, this game takes influence from a number of 80s pop culture staples, however the most prominent is of course Scarface. And just like Brian De Palma's crime epic, Tommy Vercetti starts at the bottom and slowly grinds his way up to the top of the Vice City criminal underworld. The first few levels act as both an introduction to the gameplay and the story, with its colourful cast of degenerates and rogues who Tommy has to do odd jobs for. Like this level where you have to take out the chef. Okay, he should be right about here. Whoops, well that was easy. Now, something that hasn't aged well is the gun firing mechanic, in particular the aim lock. Just look at Tommy and his magic bullets defy the laws of physics. Alright, let's get out of here. Where's Lance? Oh, come on, why are you being so stubborn? We've literally got 2 identical cars. Is it because mine's missing a door? The controls in general on this version haven't aged too well. You can use the right analog stick, but only to look around in first person. Shooting is mapped onto the circle button, while the shoulder buttons are used to look left and right. You see, all the elements we're used to these days are there, they're just not in the right place yet. I'm pretty sure this game's soundtrack is responsible for millennials' love of 80s music and the various different subgenres we ended up starting as a tribute to the decade we never got to— hold on, what the hell is that noise? Oh, sorry about that. It's great to have a dynamic day-night system, but unlike the later games, it's not context sensitive, so you can trigger missions at any time and end up having Lobster with the Colonel on his yacht at 2 in the morning. The lighting in this version is amazing. Getting blinded never felt so good. These were also the days before waypoint navigation on the minimap, but that's okay because Vice City is just small enough for you to learn the geography of both islands in a few hours. I mean, I know Vice City better than my own hometown. Fascinating. So, metal detectors strip you of all the guns, but you can bring in a chainsaw. And if you manage to chase the target out of the golf club, he will eventually just end up bouncing back and forth between walls. Look at this poor thing. You kind of just want to put him out of his misery. The infamous Demolition Man mission is just as painful today as it was 20 years ago. The poor controls, the lack of a dynamic camera, the confusing building layout, the coppers and builders trying to destroy the helicopter, everything here is stacked against you. But after a few failed attempts, the muscle memory kicks in and all those hours you spend trying to maneuver the little helicopter come back to you. It's like riding an old and very broken bike.
Tommy, I need some help here!
Seriously, how about you help yourself and don't stand at point-blank range facing your assailant? Alright, Mr. Cortez, here's your money back. Oh, bollocks. You know what? I think my grandmother was right. People back in the day was just tougher. Look at Tommy keeping up with this sedan on foot. As I mentioned, the NPCs in this game are prone to making some unexpected choices. For example, I'm chasing this guy, he then crashes his car, my car catches on fire, so he gets in my car only for it to explode. What? Mission failed, but it's not my fault. He decided to get into the flaming vehicle. Oh, here it comes. 3, 2, 1, bam! Like clockwork. I'll save you, Lance. Oh crap, run, run, run. And I must say, the inability to swim is a bit annoying in a game set across 2 tropical islands with a ton of boat missions. I never wanted to risk falling into the water when docking the boat, so I'd always find alternative methods. See? Easy. The cops are really aggressive once you get 3 stars and above, a lot more so than in the modern games. At 4 and 5 stars it just turns into full-on bumper cars. Vice City would also be the first 3D GTA game to introduce the concept of purchasing properties and growing your business empire. It essentially laid the seeds for all the various business enterprise elements, keeping 12-year-olds coming back to GTA Online to spend their parents' money. What's interesting is that even this initial PlayStation 2 release had 3 different versions. Everything you've seen so far was from the original version 1.4. Now version 2 changed the textures on some of the weapons to avoid legal troubles, because originally the developers were actually using real live gun textures. Version 3 changed some of the controversial dialogue and removed the tear gas grenades. Alright, moving on, the very first port of Vice City was released for the PC on May 13th, 2003. And being a PC game, this version of course allows for more customization. For example, you can change the resolution. However, a few of the effects elements like the trails have been removed, and so I always felt like something was missing from the PC version. Well, at least the base game, all these elements can be added through unofficial patches. Easy, easy, don't wrinkle the new suit. Damn it! Now, the mouse and keyboard controls are better than the original PlayStation 2 controls, especially when it comes to the shooting. Although Tommy will sometimes end up unintentionally moonwalking. For many people, this is the best version of Vice City, and it probably has something to do with the fact that in these past 2 decades, the community has modded this game to the moon and back. Moving on, released later that same year, we have the Xbox version. This one was released as part of a double pack including GTA 3. So they took the PlayStation 2 version and added a few improvements, including more vehicle details around the rims, the engines, and the inside textures. The cars all just look so shiny in this one. The controls are also slightly different. The Xbox triggers are now used to drive and shoot. You also get a custom radio station that plays songs from your Xbox hard drive. And booting this game up, I realized that I had the entirety of Green Day's American Idiot ripped to my old Xbox. Thankfully, the trails and all the other effects from the PlayStation 2 versions are still intact here. Boy, I'm so excited to get to this yacht party. I wore my best suit and everything. I tried to run the chef over in this one to see if the glitch was still there, but I accidentally crashed and fell out of the car just as the cutscene began. And this version still has the glitch where no cars will spawn on the road after a mission. And the golf guy is still very much an idiot. Look at Tommy, now that's a real man. He knows he's about to drown, but he's still cool as a cucumber. Park it up, guys. Now, this version is known to have some long loading times, however, the RC helicopter actually controls better. I'm not sure if the different button layout helped or they actually went in and adjusted the controls. And so that's the Xbox version. It's a cool little novelty that would end up sitting completely separate from the other ports. Speaking of which, the next game isn't technically a port, but it shares so many elements with Vice City that I'm going to give it a mention. Released on October 31st, 2006 for the PlayStation Portable, and then a year later for the PlayStation 2 we have Vice City Stories. Now this one uses the original game as a foundation, but adds a bunch of new features like empire building, an overhauled combat system, multiplayer, and an entirely new story, which is set 2 years earlier and follows Lance's brother Vic through his journey up the criminal ladder. Now, a lot of the map is still the same, however, this being a prequel, there are a few key landmark changes, like the fairground in place of the construction site, the Mendez mansion still being resided in, and the Diaz mansion still being under construction. And these aren't just some trivial changes for the sake of it, each of these do serve a story purpose and they're explained as you play the game. Rockstar leads had to do a lot of work to shove the entirety of Vice City onto a UMD disc. This meant the game had to be ported to a new engine, which makes it feel a lot closer to San Andreas, especially when driving and shooting. Vice City Stories is a great game in its own right, and it deserves its own video, so I won't go into too much detail here, just know that a sizable portion of the fandom believes this to be the best of the two games. After all, it does have Phil Collins. Moving on, released on November 12th, 2010, we have the Mac version of Vice City, and there's really not too much to say about this one. It's a straight port of the original PC version, only now it plays natively on Intel Macs. Something to note is around this time, several songs were removed from the game due to licensing contracts becoming expired, and these songs would be absent from all versions going forward. 2 years later, Rockstar decided to commemorate Vice City's 10th anniversary with the 10th anniversary editions released for the iOS on December 12th and Android a week later. And these versions mark the first time Rockstar tried to modernize the game. They claim the ports had native high-resolution graphics, and that's true, the resolution is definitely higher than the PlayStation 2 version, but the textures are the same for the most part. There are a few visual tweaks, like the characters actually having fingers and cars having more details inside the saloon and the engines, although the Xbox rims don't seem to make a transition to this one. Apart from that, this is pretty much just the PC version, which means you get the quality of life improvements, like the dynamic camera and a better aiming system. They've also added a few welcome features like the ability to immediately restart a failed mission and an autosave. And of course we have the touch controls. They're okay. Now these games do support Bluetooth controllers, and I think they are the best way to play these versions. The definitive editions actually look pretty good on a smaller phone screen, but the problem is the touch controls mean your fingers will take up half the screen. The most comfortable way to play this with touch controls is actually on a big tablet like the iPad Pro, but it's not exactly portable. Plus, the ultra high resolution displays on these devices aren't exactly flattering to these 20-year-old graphics. Oh, and the trail effects are completely absent from this version. This version would also be ported to Amazon's Fire OS devices in May of 2014. The PlayStation 3 and 4 would also get a version as part of their PlayStation 2 Classics line. This is an emulated version of the PlayStation 2 game with the license expired songs removed. And so we come to the latest iteration of Vice City as of 2022. Released on November 11, 2021 for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, and the Nintendo Switch, we have the definitive editions. Oh geez, what can I say about these games that hasn't already been said? Tommy and Lance look like they're made of fudge and chocolate. How about that? Has anyone said that? Look, no one's really surprised that one of the best-selling games ever would get a new coat of paint and a polish in this age of remasters and re-releases. And there are games that pulled it off pretty well, but this is not one of them. You see, they ported Vice City to a modern engine, but it's still a 20-year-old game. So you get this jarring visual clash, with the super realistic lighting accenting all the imperfections of a 20-year-old game. You know how sometimes in modern games you'll load into a level and the textures load a few seconds later? That's what this version looks like to me. So as I was playing it, my eyes were always expecting for these non-existent HD textures to load. And playing this version made me realize that Vice City was never about realism, not just because of the hardware it was originally released on. No, it was trying to capture this hyper-realistic, over-the-top version of what we imagined the 80s was supposed to be like. And over the decades, Rockstar's attempts to modernize and update the game chipped away at those aesthetics until finally we ended up with Vice City looking like a generic open-world Steam early access game. And the thing is, they could have made it work. Look at the Crash remakes, where the visuals have been updated but stayed true to the original game's aesthetics and style. Instead, we get this. Look at that generic food texture. Look at that floating lobster. This colonel, oh, he's living the life. Damn it, come back. Oh, look, the coppers just took him out for me. Yeah, they definitely didn't rework the NPC AI. Excuse me, officer, you're getting in the way of my drug deal. Do you mind? Well, come on, start the mission. Do I need to buy shark cards for it to start? Is that also part of the remaster? Also, the fact that this 20-year-old game makes me choose between fidelity and performance on PlayStation 5 is a crime. Okay, graphics aside, what about the controls and gameplay? Well, the quality of life improvements from the Anniversary Editions are present here, and a few elements from Grand Theft Auto 5 have also migrated over to this version. The radio and weapon wheel are a nice touch, and if you're unfamiliar with the map, I guess so is the mini-map navigation. The shooting controls are better, and so is the auto-aim. And what about the RC helicopter? Surely they've improved that. Nope, this is the worst one. So they actually removed the functionality to rotate the chopper left and right, so now you just have to awkwardly do these wide turns with the analog stick. I'm not going to go into detail about the graphics and frame rate differences between the different versions of the Definitive Edition, mainly because other channels like the Digital Foundry did a much better job than I ever could. Obviously the Switch version is the biggest downgrade in terms of the graphics, but I actually think this version looks best when it's played in handheld mode, just like the iPhone versions of the Anniversary Edition. And speaking of mobile ports, a recent earnings report from Rockstar's parent company Take-Two revealed that an iOS and Android version of the Definitive Edition would be out in the first half of 2023. And so there we have it, every version of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. In these past 2 decades, Vice City has grown beyond its inspirations, coming full circle to inspire an entire generation of music, art, and style. In a strange turn of meta-irony, we are now nostalgic for a game that was itself made for nostalgia. And because of this, I expect for Vice City to continue to be ported to new platforms. In a few years' time, we'll be struggling with the RC helicopter in VR and stealing the fastest boat on a smart fitness mirror. But the original will still be there. Okay, maybe not on any of the digital stores, but you can still dust off your old PlayStation 2, pop in that old disc, and hear the waves. Thanks for watching. Please let me know your memories and experiences with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Which version is your favorite? If you'd like to see more from me, please check out my second channel, AI Storytime, where I attempt to retell famous movies using AI-generated art with some interesting results. As always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow me on Twitter. See you next time.